This is Reverend Bill, and today it's just turned September 13th, and this is day two. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk because, to be honest, there's really not much that people are talking about, and that's probably justifiable. There was a Colorado shooting that happened also the same day, but the information is kind of slow. There's a lot of misinformation there, and I want to make sure that if we discuss that, it's accurate. The 16-year-old shooter was involved in some extremist, they're saying, activities, and there's a lot, like I said, a lot of misinformation coming out. So I don't really know what we can believe and not believe at this point in time. So we're going to hold back on that. But we will talk about the information. They have caught him, and we will get into that in a couple of minutes. But one of the stories that I just came across that didn't make it on my cheat sheet, which I'm going to bring up in a minute, was they were doing a prayer vigil, which was a beautiful idea. And they wanted a poster to be printed up to do the prayer vigil. Don't really have the information of who or what exactly, but it was a prayer vigil they were doing in memorial for Charlie, and they called that in to Office Max, and Office Max refused to print it up. I think this was in Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, and the workers, they looked to me like liberals. They refused to print it up due to propaganda, they said. And it'll probably be in the newspapers. I just saw it really quickly as I was running up to the studio to just to do this, so I didn't get all the information. But they recorded it, and they put the video up there. I think I got it off the New York Post, where I got a lot of my information. And they guess they refused it. They said printing up a poster to do a prayer vigil was propaganda, and they refused to do it. I don't blame Office Max, because apparently they left there and they went to FedEx, which I believe didn't even charge them for it. They apologized that they had problems at Office Max, and they printed it right there and then. Office Max, the company, found out about it and fired the employee or employees. I think one of them was an assistant manager, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't hold Office Max responsible at all. They realized their folly, and they fixed it. It was just the employees that were the issue, as far as I'm concerned. So, there was calls for a boycott against Office Max, but Office Max immediately fixed the issue. So I don't think it was a policy with Office Max. I think it was a couple of the employees that were just being difficult. So they took care of it. So I do not find this to be an Office Max issue whatsoever. They took care of it as quickly as I found out that there was an issue. I think this was just a couple of liberals that were working there. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. And again, I don't have a lot of the details, because I don't find it's an Office Max thing. I just think it was a couple of liberals, and the story is probably going to be covered pretty well. But the meat and potatoes of it was just there were a couple of liberals at Office Max that refused to print a poster for Charlie Kirk's vigil, and it was taken care of. Just another thing where a couple of liberals who just I don't know what universe they think they live on, but it's not where humans should be living in. I mean, there's no way that a prayer vigil for a person that died, a father left his 3-year-old and a 1-year-old daughters, I think they were daughters, and a grieving widow, that's not a propaganda political statement. That's a grieving family that's going to miss their fathers for the rest of their lives, and husband. And that's not a propaganda piece whatsoever. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's get on with what I have teed up today, shall we say? Easy for me to say. Okay, let's see. Okay, so they have 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is our suspect. he was one who killed Charlie Kirk, allegedly. From from this point on, everything's alleged, so I don't want to sound redundant. So everything's alleged here. His father turned him in. Our president actually, I believe, broke the news by saying, excuse me, that we have him. We'll go over what we know about him, but basically, he's a student at a technical college. Or he was. I guess he's not going there now, in St. George, Utah. He was, as they always are. Oh, he was a good kid, was shocked. Always, went to church on Sundays and blah, blah, blah. Smart child, apparently. He got a full scholarship to Utah State University. Interesting. He only went for one semester. He had a full scholarship. And after one semester, he dropped out, and the school said they were not allowed to explain on what conditions or why he dropped out. It was all very hush hush. Okay, well, that's the least of his issues now, I suppose. But they can't disclose what made him drop out. He then enrolled in a technical college, probably a good move if you're looking at the economy going forward. But anyway, he went to a technical college to do an electrical apprenticeship. I guess what undid him is after the shooting, his father recognized him by, I guess, his clothes. I guess the father recognized him and saw the pictures, and I guess called him and said, that was you. And he admitted that, yes, it was me. The father said, well, you've got to turn yourself in. And he said that he'd rather die. But his father got him to talk to the minister. Nice father. My father would have turned me in immediately, and he would have he would have collected that money. And he would have asked if he could get any more money if he testified against me. Oh, my father would all of that money. Geez, yeah. Oh my goodness! I can't believe that his father, didn't turn him in immediately. My father would be doing a book tour if he could afterwards. Maybe doing a movie for consulting fees. Anyway, his father talked him into going to the minister, and then the minister actually, I guess he was involved somehow with the authorities as far as a search. Somehow, I guess the minister was working with the authorities on some level, so it was an easy call for him. He just actually turned him in to the authorities after, I guess, he talked to Tyler. He used, again, I'm not a weapon guy, but I guess it was a bolt-action rifle. I did look this up now. Originally, I thought, on my last podcast, I think I said 200 feet. I think originally I was told 200 feet, which is a really easy shot, I think. It was 200 yards, not 200 feet. And again, I think I said 200 feet, but it was 200 yards, which I looked up. And again, 200 yards is actually a pretty decent shot to make for any competent or decent sniper. So again, 200 yards, if you have a scope rifle, which I guess this is, not a very hard shot for if you're a reasonable shot. Even an experienced novice, it said, which, I'm not sure. So even if you've been practicing and you're a decent novice, is what they said, you should be able to make that shot. Again, I do not know what I'm talking about. If you gave me this gun, I'd probably shoot my foot off. I'm not an expert by any stretch. I do plan on getting a gun and learning how to use it, because in this society, I'm beginning to think you're stupid if you don't know how to use a gun, because it's getting to be very dangerous. But currently, anyone would be a fool to put a gun in my hand, because I would probably shoot myself by mistake. But so I'm not a person to talk to. However, from what I understand from doing my research, If you're an experienced novice, you've got a decent shot at making this. If you've got some experience and a decent rifle, you know what you're doing. So again, um, if you got a good rifle and you're a decent shot, you got a good shot at making this if you know what you're doing, from what I understand. So this isn't some kind of sniper and some sure shot sniper, some Marine expert you got to do, or some Navy SEAL to make this shot. Okay, now this is really driving me crazy because the teachers nowadays are the bane of my existence. I wasn't crazy about the teachers when I went to school, but the teachers nowadays are absolutely. I'm just shocked and dismayed. When my children were in school some 20 years ago, I couldn't believe the teachers teaching them, and now I think they're completely ridiculous. But anyway, they were mocking Charlie Kirk's assassination, and I just can't see enough bad things about them. Um, this one is from my old stomping grounds of Massachusetts. Um, she looked like she was in a bar. I saw this one actually, um, and she was singing "God Bless America" again. She looked to me like she was. If I had to guess, she looked like she was in an airplane bar. I spent enough time in airplanes in my day traveling for work, and she looked like she was in an airplane bar or something, or a sports bar. But she was singing "God Bless America" in the background. They were doing live reports on Charlie Kirk's murder, and she was singing "God Bless America." Her name's Samaritha Marengo, an elementary school teacher, great, in Framingham. Now, they said some of these women or men who actually being teachers nowadays, they're probably fluid, so who knows what they are. But anyway, she was placed on leave, so I'm not sure she's going to be fired. I hope she is. The idea that she's singing and dancing over an assassination of a Christian man who had nothing but love in his heart for people and for God is disgusting to me. But that's just the world we live in right now. But they have put her on administrative leave, which is a good start. But I want to see her fired. But I, of course, no say in that. So anyway, so she's one of them. Absolutely disgusting. This man was fired, which is good to hear. He's from Greenville, South Carolina, and he just made a statement saying that America became better after the assassination. Short but sweet, and I think he was fired very promptly. South Carolina, obviously, the closer we get to God's country, the South, the better the reaction. So yeah, that's good. Glad to see he's gone. Let's see. Then another one in a letter, someone wrote that she cheered Kirk's death on Facebook by writing that at least he died surrounded by white folk. Now, here's the thing about what these liberals have done. A lot of these people had absolutely no idea who he was or what he stood for. I was very, very in tune with Charlie Kirk. I watched him quite a bit. Um, a lot of things he talked about. I'm 60 years old. He wasn't so much teaching me as I was looking at. I was glad to see that he was coming up and he was teaching a lot of the ideas that I used to have, and I was seeing him as hope for the younger generation. He was spelling a lot of things that I was trying to teach to my children unsuccessfully. So I was glad. I was seeing him as hope for the younger generation. I was cheering him on. And him and the younger, Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and Candace Owens and Michael Knowles, a lot of them I was feeling really good about them and bringing up the younger generation. So I'm very familiar with what he stood for. I'm finding a lot of these liberals did not know. They were making things up, and they are making things up, and they're making gross assumptions about him that are just not true. They couldn't beat him in an argument. They couldn't win in his debates. They couldn't beat him in Prove Me Wrong, which is one of his great points where he brought up people and he'd have them try to prove him wrong and they couldn't. The end result was, of course, they killed him, and now they're making up lies about things he said, which he never said. So because they couldn't find fault with him, they're making up things that he said that he never said. And this thing about being a white supremacist, Charlie Kirk was never a white supremacist. So they're saying things now that he's dead and he can't protect himself. He can't defend himself. So now they're just making up stuff. But he was never a white supremacist. To say that he was a white supremacist means you've never, ever listened to him. He was anything but a white supremacist. So this is just spewing lies to justify murder, in my opinion. But he was never, ever, ever a white supremacist. So this is a blatant lie. What else are they saying? Oh, someone says his new pronouns are was and were. Really bad joke. Let's see. Good riddance to bad garbage. He compared Kirk to a Nazi. Again, things that are just blatant lies about him. At least this guy was put on leave. I hope he gets fired. Donald Trump, our president, has had asked for flags at half staff, which is very appropriate. And of course, someone else effed that. He was a hateful bigot and a scumbag. Charlie Kirk was anything but a bigot. He wanted to bring everyone into the party. He wanted to bring people in. He wanted to converse, debate, bring discussions up. He wanted to bring everyone into the Conservative Party, and he wanted to discuss and share ideas. He was anything but a bigot. He would sit down and discuss these ideas with everybody. He would sit down with gays. He would sit down with transgenders. He would talk with anybody to share ideas and to bring you on board. And there was nobody he would not talk to. He would talk to anybody. So calling him a bigot is ridiculous. A bigot was close-minded. Charlie Kirk would talk to anybody, would share ideas with anybody. There was nobody he was not willing to sit down and talk to, and to have a breaking of the bread with. How is that a bigot? That's ridiculous. Charlie knew that the only way to get a good peace going in the world is to sit down and talk things out and to come to agreement. That is the opposite of a bigot. These are all lies. And they're lies because they could not justify the killing of a good man. These are all exact opposite of what Charlie stood for. When people that I would probably not give 2 seconds to talk to because they repulsed me, Charlie would sit down and would talk endlessly, talking to people about things and whatever they wanted to talk about. He never lost his patience. That's what made him so special. When people like me would run out of patience, and I try sometimes, I really do try, but people like me run out of patience in time sometimes, and it's a weakness of ours. Charlie never did. That's what made him special. It's crazy. Could Kirk have baited just one too many people? Could that have been the consequences of his actions? See, now this is another thing. They're blaming him. It's like, okay, he was for the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and they're blaming him now. Well, he made us do it. He made us do it. He wouldn't shut up. He made us do this. That's absolutely ridiculous. He wouldn't shut up. He kept on pushing. That is absolutely ridiculous. That never works. He made us do it. He just wouldn't shut up about his whole, freedom, his whole Bill of Rights. This whole Bill of Rights thing, he's talking about it all the time. He made us do this to him. Oh, one down, now the rest of the fools. They already mentioned Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro. I don't know if they mentioned Michael Knowles. I'm sure they have. It's, in other words, if you guys don't shut up and stop talking about your Bill of Rights, you're next. Is this the society we now live in? And yet, they're calling us Nazis and fascists. They're the ones that say, if you don't shut up, we're going to gun you down. Stop talking about your rights. Unbelievable. And then another one, he's a garbage human being. One Nazi down. They calling, do these people not even understand the terminology? They just throw this around like, Nazi, 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 fascist, fascist. Do they not think about this? Because Nazis are not the ones that get shot down. They're the ones that do the shooting, okay? They don't even think about what they do. Now, Stephen King at least thought about it afterwards, but he came out and he was called a twisted liar. He was called worse than any of the monsters he did. But he did say that he advocated stoning gays to death, which again is not true. That's with an answer to Jesse Walters, who said Kirk was not a controversial, polarizing figure, but a patriot, which is true, for what I just said. And King said that he was just saying that he was the stoning gays to death, which is not true. And one of the Democrats who's gay, David Rubin, said Charlie was anything but kind to me and my husband. Was never anything but kind to me and my husband. We broke bread many times, and he never treated me with any. He never treated us with anything other than respect. He came to our houses not too long ago, and plot twist, he didn't throw rocks at us. Right about that, sometimes you hack. But then he came back and he said that he was sorry. And he said, the horrible, evil, twisted liar apologized. This is what I get for reading something on Twitter without fact checking. Won't happen again. So at least he did apologize. So one other thing that was at least good that he did one. One thing that I do want to say, though, is that they cannot let the conservatives hide out. I know that some have said, and I want to mention, that this is why they don't go out and they speak. And it's a tough thing because they've pretty much been told now that, this is something that makes them not want to go out there and talk. And it's difficult. I mean, especially if you're the, if you're the wife or they're young. I can see that if I was a high profile figure, which obviously I'm not, but if I was, it would be different for me. I mean, I'm not like, a young guy like these guys are. But it must be tough if you're a young person like Charlie was, and you've got children, 1 and 3. It's a whole different ball game. These guys are in the young men and women. I mean, Ken Sowens has got young children. So does Ben Shapiro. I'm not sure. I don't know if Mike Knowles has any children. I know Matt Walsh does. They've got to actually have that conversation. Is it worth risking their lives to go out there? Someone like me, not that anyone would shoot me, but if they did, I really wouldn't care. I'm in my 60s, my children are grown. That's a whole different ball game. But these guys, they would have. I don't know. It's scary when you're at that age. It's a whole different thing. You can't live to do, and that was something Charlie had to deal with, and he knew. He talked about assassinations. He got death threats, and he made the decision that it was worth going out there for the good it could do. He weighed that on a scale, and he decided to go and give it a shot. And he knew the risks, and that's the decision he made, right or wrong. That's the decision he made, and he thought, he's a legend for it. So I don't know. They're going to have to make that decision. I think Matt Walsh already said his decision is to go full speed ahead, and I understand that, and the rest of them have to make up that decision too. I hope that a lot of them do go out there and do it. It's a risk. you know. So I don't know. It's interesting, and that gets me into something else here. A lot of the stuff I get from different websites. I do rely a lot on Twitter and the New York Post. This one I got from the rankings. This is very interesting. It's going to be hard here to read, but essentially these first two is interesting. They did a poll on college students, and they found is this 34%. That is the percentage of college students that agree that violence is okay to shut down speakers you don't like. 34% of college students have thought that, yeah, it's okay, violence is okay. If you don't like someone speaking, violence is acceptable to shut them down. And that 72% is that shouting over speakers that you don't like is appropriate way to stop people from speaking that you don't like. You know, we could go over the other ones aren't as important, but the two that really shocks me is the 34% saying violence is appropriate if you don't like what someone's saying. That's scary. And even the 72%, I mean, I remember when I was in college, the idea of you know, you got to let people speak. I mean, being in an assembly, I mean, I would never think of, I remember when I was going to Stonehill, we spent all our guest speaker money on Larry Linville for MASH to come in, and he spoke about his childhood. We need to speak about MASH, and people were very unhappy with it. And we sat there for like 2 hours listening to Larry Linville talk about his childhood, and we were very just unhappy. I think at times we kind of got rude talking, but I mean, we weren't like so rude as to boo him or talk over him or attack him. We just, you know, we talked a little among ourselves because we're unhappy with him, but we would never be so rude as to attack him or talk over him. You know, we blew our whole year, you know, speaking on Larry Linville talking about his childhood, which wasn't very all that interesting actually. But the point I'm trying to get to is where these kids think they can now just take over speakers is ridiculous. And they could take it over through violence, or they could just like shout people down if they don't like them. I don't know. That's pretty weird. I don't know. Anyway, getting off that, the one last thing, which is not really related to this, I suppose, but it just is kind of like another thing about what's going on in this world. I came across this. And again, this is not the world I was grown up in. Therapists in 27 states and 2 territories, which is, you know, DC and Puerto Rico, have laws which prevent therapists from telling children that they are what they are born into. So if there's a little boy, let's say 7 or 8 or 9, who comes in thinking he's a little girl, they are prevented from telling that child that they're a little boy. To tell a little boy that he's a little boy and not a little girl is called conversion therapy, and it's prohibited. You could lose your license for it. So if a whack job comes in with a child, let's say a trans comes in with a child, and they have this child dressed up like a trans too. Okay, so let's say this trans, whatever, a man dressed up like a woman, trans, comes in and they have their child dressed up like a little girl and it's a boy. And you know this is like weird, and you know this boy is a boy and it's got a wig on it, and you try telling that boy that it's a boy, you could lose your license. That's called conversion therapy. And telling that little boy that it's really a boy, you could lose your license. That's conversion therapy. And in 27 states, including, of course, Minnesota, the head of trans and the head of witches, by the way, Minnesota is not Minnesota's evil. Head of witchcraft, headquarters for witchcraft, headquarters for trans. Minnesota, evil central. And Massachusetts, don't get me going on that, my old home state, are 2 of the biggest states for that. So yeah, but you cannot tell a little boy he's a boy or a little girl they're a little girl if they think that that they're something else. If you tell them that they're really a little boy and they're really a little girl, that's called conversion therapy. And that is not allowed. So, but thank God if they think they're a little dog or a little cat, you are allowed to tell them they're not. That's okay. You can actually tell them they're not a little dog or a little cat. That's okay. I did check that out. But you're not allowed to tell them that they're not a little girl, that they're a little boy if they're a little boy. That's conversion therapy. So that's where we live in. All right, that's all I got for today. This is Reverend Bill signing off. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, then come back again. We'll give it another shot next time. Take care. Bye-bye.